Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the premium public video forecast discussion for Wednesday, June 26, 2024. Now, you might be wondering, hey, Steven, aren't premium public video discussions normally just on Friday? And normally they are, but sometimes there is a weather event that I start to see in the observations that warrants more detailed information. And sometimes you have to put public safety over profit. And so I hope premium members are okay with this because I am concerned with what I'm seeing. And I hope that I'm wrong because unlike some people, I do not like severe weather, but the observations I'm seeing now, and I'm going to walk you through them, have me concerned. Okay. And of course, if you can, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And also, if you're interested in more detailed information, I do have some emails I need to respond to after this video and some discussions directly with premium consulting members. If you want that detailed one-on-one conversation with an actual meteorologist, then just subscribe to premium consulting membership for only $15 a month. Now that we got that out of the way, take a look at the observations that we have right now. As forecasted by pretty much everyone, we have seen our tropical air mass return, and with it, plenty of humidity and plenty of moisture in the atmosphere, and temperatures rising rapidly through the 70s, pushing into 80 degrees around Wildwood. Notice the dew points are pushing into the mid to upper 60s and lower 70s. So we established that there's plenty of moisture. We also established that around our urban heat island, we are seeing temperatures getting a little bit warmer, a little bit faster. And we're starting to see the influence here of that. Now, notice the winds. Very slight differences in the wind direction. Why am I pointing this out? Well, as many of you know, you've heard me say this on X and on also other social media and also even on TV interviews. I suspect that when the urban heat island becomes amplified and you have a cold front or a complex of storms coming in, that thermal gradient that sets up here creates a shift in the winds, which is natural because you have rising air here. So your your air at the surface has to fill that void that's lifting. So you get this setup here where you get an increase of low level wind shear. Now you combine that with some of the other factors that we'll talk about in a moment. That opens up a dynamic situation for severe thunderstorms and the potential, not the guarantee, but the potential for powerful straight line wind gusts and, yes, some isolated tornadoes. So I am concerned about this area here and this area here. Locations to the north and west of the immediate urban heat island effects that we see here. So I like here and I like here. So when I see some of these observations coming in, I decided, you know what, let me make sure that everyone understands what we're dealing with here. So clearly we have very warm air, tropical air surging into the region. We can see that in the observations. We can see the differences in the moisture fields with these little troughs that are also representative of little mid-level short waves moving through the region. So we have a lot going on here, even though it doesn't look like there is a lot going on here. You might just be saying, hey, look, Stephen, it's just a few scattered clouds. Yes, but the devil is in the details. So this sets up, first and foremost, a very hot and humid day. The good news is that this isn't going to be multiple days. It's a one-day, one-shot event, and it's going to allow our heat index, as you can see here on the NAM model guides from weathermiles.com, the heat index pushing around 100 degrees. Where? Right around our urban heat island effect. Okay? So we have that gradient that sets up in here. And so this is going to enhance our thermal gradient. This is how it feels. Our surface temperatures are not going to be that far behind, looking at mid to upper 90s throughout this region as well. So this opens up again that enhancement, a very hot day. And of course, this also can limit thunderstorm development for a short time, because when you get this type of heat, what you need is an additional trigger to really break the cap in the atmosphere. But that cap, if you think of it like a soda, right now, with the way that we're driving in this humid air mass and we're creating these thermal gradients, is like if you took a soda bottle and you start shaking that soda bottle, all that soda, and you start getting that combustion really starting to build up against that cap. Well, if you shake it long enough and then you break open that cap, you get soda all over you. Well, right now we are shaking the soda bottle in this scenario. So currently in our surface map and radar from weather tab here, let's just refresh this real fast. You can see right now it's pretty quiet. We have a warm front off to our south. We have a few of those troughs I was talking about. Here is our cold front with an actual polar air mass. And that's one of the key things here. We have cold air aloft. So we have this cold air aloft coming in with this cold front coming in with plenty of tropical moisture surging northward. And so we'll start off with the precipitable water values. They're rising rapidly. So we know that we have plenty of moisture in the atmosphere, and this is going to continue to increase throughout the day, increasing the amount of moisture that thunderstorms will be able to feed on. While we have that, we also have increasing shear. Now, the shear is mostly forecasted, mostly a focus right now around the Great Lakes. This is going to increase slightly. I'm not expecting a huge difference in vertical wind shear at the mid levels and upper levels where a lot of this is measured. And when you take a look at the 850 and 500 millibar winds, you look at this and you're like, not really tornadic supportive, which is why the SPC kind of backed off on its percentages here. But again, look at what we've been seeing over the past couple of years. But let's just focus on this year, the past couple of weeks with these thunderstorms, and where they've set up and where they've kind of surprised us with a tornado outbreak or two. And again, we're talking about 1 or 2 F0s or F1s, but still, nonetheless, tornado development. And in those scenarios, it wasn't exactly screaming vertical wind shear here. And you could see that a lot of that focus is more towards central New York. And even with that, it's not that impressive. You got some speed shear here between the upper level winds and mid level winds, but nothing that's really stands out that says, wow. But what does stand out is what I'm going to show you next. Cape downdraft. Why is this important? Well, remember when I mentioned the cold air aloft coming in? What this is a measure is what happens when you have this tropical air mass and you move a cold, dry air mass over it, let's say around 500 millibars or so. Well, what you start to set up is that your cape starts to skyrocket. And this supports the potential for thunderstorms that feature very powerful downburst wind gusts. Now, what's downburst wind gusts? Well, think of it like this. Let's say you have a hammer and you have some glass, and you take that hammer and you slam it on the glass, and the glass breaks, right? Downburst wind gusts is basically taking very cold, dry air, throwing moisture into it. The moisture condenses, it cools as well. So this cooler air is heavier in the thunderstorm and rapidly races down towards the ground because it's heavier. It's able to sink faster. So when you have that rapid falling air in the thunderstorm, you see it as straight line wind gusts and very powerful straight line wind gusts and gust fronts that come out ahead of the thunderstorm. So when I see this type of scenario, this type of signal here showing up here, it makes me concerned that we're going to be dealing with thunderstorms that are going to have very powerful straight line winds, but they're also going to be interacting with that urban heat island effect. Even though it'll be declining because we're moving towards the evening, it'll still be interacting with it. And so there could be some turning with these thunderstorms as well. So it looks like it's going to be a scenario here where you have a lot going on. Now, on the visible satellite picture, you can see the moisture streaming into the region. You got a lot of cirrus and a lot of mid-level stratus moving into the region. So this is clearly plenty of warm air transport. you're seeing some of that shear here. Notice how the clouds are kind of getting feathery and kind of getting pulled apart here. So there's certainly some signs of vertical wind shear. On the infrared satellite picture, you can see again a nice setup here with our cold front coming in, the lifting starting to become enhanced. That's all moving towards our neck of the woods. And on the water vapor satellite picture, you see there's some moisture. There's our Bermuda high. Get used to that all summer. Driving moisture in. Here comes our polar air mass. Look at this trough here. Pretty impressive trough here. Now, when you see this sinking air here, then you know that the lifting here is very strong. So nice couplet here setting up that's going to be driving into the East Coast. So again, you have all these factors all coming together, setting up the potential. What are some inhibiting factors? The inhibiting factor really comes down to the timing. These thunderstorms are going to be moving through in the late evening hours. So instability will start to fall off. And so on one hand, your instability falls off, but also at night, when you have these thunderstorms setting up, the 850 millibar jet streak also intensifies. So that's showing up on the model guides as well, and it's typical. It's a very known rule that as you go into the overnight hours, your 850 millibar jet streak intensifies, which means your downburst wind gust potential also intensifies because you can mix that air down towards the surface. So I'm leaning towards this more being a straight line wind event, okay? But be aware of a few isolated tornadoes as well, especially to the north and west of the I-95 corridor and right on the I-95 corridor, right in that ballpark here that I was focusing on. So you can see the trough moving through tonight, and you can see the strong cold air transport here. This is going to be a fresh polar air mass. It's going to feel wonderful by tomorrow afternoon with low humidity, and that's going to continue on through Friday. So the end of the week looks very, very nice. But before we get to that point, we're going to deal with these thunderstorms and plenty of high level moisture. And oh, by the way, if you're looking for more rainfall, I do have some good news for you for Saturday. We're going to have a warm front that's going to be lifting through the region and plenty of deep tropical moisture with it. Someone's going to get some heavier downpours out of this and some pretty good rainfall as this warm front lifts through. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that on Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. And it looks like it's going to be a rather stormy weekend with more short waves swinging on through. So if you're looking for showers and thunderstorms, I do have some good news for you. Now, taking a look at our SKU for this evening, again, pretty clear. We have the instability setting up here. Again, not a lot of vertical wind shear here. I think in terms of vertical wind shear, you're going to be dealing with the potential down here, okay? Right to the north and west of the urban heat island effect with those surface winds initially creating that turning motion, okay? Otherwise, if you don't have that, this is clearly a straight line wind event where it's going to be capable of taking some of these stronger winds and mixing them down towards the surface and supporting these thunderstorms that are going to be capable of producing wind gusts over 60 times 70 miles per hour in a few isolated locations. So on the latest mesoscale guidance, and we'll refresh this here real fast. Let's just set this up. You could see the thunderstorms are going to be coming in. And what we're going to be watching for in terms of turning is going to be, now, again, you don't take this verbatim, but when you see cells like this, that's a concern. When you see cells like this, that's a concern. But when you see cells like this alignment here, this is straight line winds here that could be really damaging in the Hudson River Valley. And again, this is towards the later evening hours, okay? So if you're going, let's say, to the Mets-Yankees game, you should be fine to see most of the game, but the end of the game might be very, very stormy. I'm not just talking about the Mets bullpen. This could be very stormy end to the night with this line coming in. And then, as you can see, more additional showers and thunderstorms move through in the overnight hours when we're all sleeping, with, again, that downburst wind gusts and those straight line winds concerns. And that's also showing up pretty nicely here on the NAM guidance as well, in various ways. Again, you're not going to have this verbatim, okay? You never want to take any of these model guidance and say, oh, well, this is exactly what the radar is going to look like. But you can see what the potential is with the downburst wind gusts, and you get some of these isolated storms out ahead of it with some turning motion to the north and west of Philadelphia, into central New Jersey, north and west of New York City, into the Hudson River Valley and southwestern Connecticut. So that is what we're going to be watching out for. Either way, it looks like a very stormy night. So let's dive into this forecast. For today, hazy, hot, and humid. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 80s over the northern interior. In the higher elevations, lower to mid 90s north and west of the major cities, lower to mid 90s on the coast, mid to upper 80s on Long Island, and mid to upper 90s in the Delaware River Valley, with the heat index pushing around 100 degrees. For tonight into tomorrow morning, again, we have our showers and thunderstorms are going to be moving through the region here. A very stormy night can be expected. Lows by tomorrow morning will range from the lower to mid 60s over the northern interior, upper 60s to lower 70s in your suburbs, lower to mid 70s in your urban areas. By tomorrow afternoon, humidity will start to crash, and our high temperatures will still be a bit toasty, but the humidity will be much lower, much like what we had yesterday, with high temperatures ranging from the upper 70s to mid 80s over the northern interior, lower to mid 80s along the coast, and upper 80s to lower 90s in the Delaware River Valley. On Friday, high pressure will be in complete control, very comfortable conditions, low humidity. Low temperatures range from the lower to mid 50s over the northern interior, upper 50s to lower 60s in your suburbs, lower to mid 60s in your urban areas. High temperatures on Friday with clear skies and light winds will range from the lower to mid 70s over the interior and along the coast, upper 70s to lower 80s in the Delaware River Valley. A few mid 80s are possible down towards the Philadelphia and southern suburbs. On Saturday, warm front approaches with periods of showers, possibly heavy at times. Some tropical downpours are possible. Look for low temperatures in the lower to mid 60s over the northern interior, mid to upper 60s in your suburbs, upper 60s to lower 70s in your urban areas. High temperatures range from the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, lower to mid 80s in the Delaware River Valley, and mid to upper 70s along the coast. On Sunday, warm front lifts through, cold front comes through with waves of showers and thunderstorms. So it looks like a rather stormy weekend setting up with low temperatures in the lower to mid 70s over the northern interior, mid to upper 70s along the coast. High temperatures will range from the lower to mid 80s on Long Island, upper 80s to lower 90s along the coast, lower to mid 90s in the Delaware River Valley, and mid to upper 80s over the interior. On Monday, high pressure builds in with clearing skies. Look for low temperatures to range from the upper 50s to lower 60s over the northern interior, lower to mid 60s in your suburbs, mid to upper 60s in the Delaware River Valley. High temperatures will range from the lower to mid 70s over the northern interior, mid to upper 70s along the coast, and upper 70s to lower 80s in the Delaware River Valley. Overall, a very, very pleasant Monday starting of July 1st. July 2nd is still pleasant, absolutely beautiful out, with low temperatures ranging from the lower to mid 50s over the northern interior, mid to upper 50s in your suburbs, and upper 50s to lower 60s in your urban areas. High temperatures will range from the mid to upper 70s over the northern interior, upper 70s to lower 80s along the coast, and lower to mid 80s in the Delaware River Valley. On Wednesday, the day before the 4th of July, look for scattered cloud cover with an increase in humidity, lows in the lower to mid 60s, high temperatures in the mid to upper 70s on Long Island with the winds coming right off the Atlantic, upper 70s to lower 80s along the rest of the coast, mid to upper 80s in the Delaware River Valley, and lower to mid 80s over the interior. And for a sneak peek of 4th of July, well, it looks like nature might be trying to throw in its own fireworks, but overall it looks to be a little bit muggy, possibly hot and humid. We'll see whether or not we get those 90s surging into the region, but there is going to be that threat for an isolated thunderstorm or two. So we'll have to watch out for that, and we'll have more details on that as the week goes on. That is your forecast discussion for today. We'll have more coverage on this event with our live chat tonight at 8 p.m. So definitely join us then as we track these strong to severe thunderstorms and see whether conditions become even more favorable or if we can back down on some of the severe threat and hopefully just have a stormy but wet night, but not destructive. So we'll see how that all plays out. Looking forward to seeing all of you there. In the meantime, stay safe out there.